I'm so excited. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can see that. We're teasing you. Sarcasm always sounds strange coming from Abraham, doesn't it?
Okay, sorry. So you know why I'm here, because you know my son brought me here.
Now, you looked happy over there a minute ago.
I'm really happy.
We thought, where's a really happy person? Where's someone who will add to the momentum that we've got going on here? And we looked over there, and there was a really happy person sitting right there. Right there. What happened between there?
Okay, that is my son talking
here?
to me right now.
What happened?
Okay,
what
I'm
happened
here.
between
I'm
there and
I'm
here?
good. I'm really good. Okay, so I came, and I just want to say that I wouldn't even be here without him, and it's such a blessing. It sounds so weird to say, oh, you lost somebody, but it's been such a blessing. It's beautiful. And so I just want to say thank you, and I hear you, and I hear him all the time. Okay, but here's my question. So we're, you know, I've grown, and I'm expanding, and I know how to get into a good place. And then I go out in the world, and then the people are like Esther dealing with her friend and the sadness, and I don't want to shun everybody off, because it's like, I don't want to hear your sadness, I don't want to hear your worry, I don't want to, because I like being in a good place. And how do you listen intently to people that
You don't. Send a memo. Send a memo. You're bumming me out.
I mean, you go to work, and you know, I'm a teacher, and there's always complaining and the shooting and this and that. And it's like I don't want to feel that, be a part of that vibration, but I don't want to be.
Well, here's the thing, and even though this topic could not be more important, and there could not be an experience that any of you are living that is more emphatic and more understood. In other words, everybody gets it. We certainly understand the bigness of this topic.
Uh-huh.
But in order to get a handle on this, and in order to get underneath it, where you can start getting hold of it and do something for yourself about it, you have to start in this place. You have to get out ahead of your action with your vibration.
Okay.
Because what happens is, when you're out in the world and people are sympathizing or complaining about things not necessarily personally related to you, when things are touching you that are upsetting to you, and then you return to your home base, to your nest,
To my bed.
and you sort of withdraw or retreat from that, sort of in an attitude of it being too much for you.
Mm-hmm.
Then nothing changes in your vibration. Your point of attraction remains the same, and you just start over again. So it's sort of a cycle that you want to break. We know that that's why you're wanting to talk to us here. So an understanding, and we want all of you to hear this, even though you're not experiencing, in most cases, anything as dramatic as what she's experiences. We want you to hear these words, and we're just going to practice them together a little bit and show you how effective they can be. We want you to acknowledge that the best creating is the creating that's done in advance. The best creating is the creating where you get out ahead of it rather than that you're responding to something. Time helps, for sure, because the intensity of the discomfort, you just can't keep it up. You just can't stay focused in all of those poignant ways. And when you have the benefit of someone adoring you and non-physically focusing with you, there are advantages that you've never had before also. But that's hard to hear when you're having one of those disadvantaged feeling moments. Right. So the simple things that we want to say to you is a sort of it is an absolute promise that we are wanting to convey to you, is that if you can get, and you can, a hold of a stable thought and project it out ahead of you, and then see your day respond to that thought, you'll be off and running and you'll get it. And you're already experiencing some of that. You know what we mean. Mm-hmm. When you're feeling shaken, overwhelmment that didn't bother you before just knocks you down. When you've got something like this going on, problems of the world that were really not any of your business feel like they're right at your doorstep. In other words, everything is so intensified for you. So the first promise we want to make to you is that is subsiding more all the time. The second promise that we want to make to you is that there's more gain than there is loss in a situation like this. Now, nobody hears it and nobody wants to hear it. And Esther said the other day, because she's working on a book, because some days she feels so sad that she's just mad that everybody doesn't get it. Mm-hmm. And some days she feels so glad that she's amazed and can't even remember the days that she was sad. In other words, she said, I'm like a crazy person. Because the glad is so really, really glad that it makes the sad really stick out like a sore thumb. Right. But something that she is discovering is that there is, and she didn't think that she would ever say the words, but she's saying the words, and so we are certain that she wouldn't mind us repeating them. There is more benefit than not benefit. More benefit than not benefit. So in the same way, we're talking to our friend about you got to look for the love, you got to look for the money, you got to look for it where it is. Mm-hmm. You've got to look for it where it is, not where it isn't. That's the tripping point. You got to look for it where it is. And what you're discovering, you see, when someone important to you makes their transition and then they give their undivided attention to you, and you have the benefit of knowing that and feeling that often, in those moments that you deprive yourself of that, you feel awfuler. Mm-hmm. And so you got to get out there ahead of it. That's why sometimes it's better to just be by yourself, where you can find that alignment, in your own terms, in your own way, and just adjust to it. And then when you get out there, it's our promise to you that buffer that you found at home will carry you out there where there's a little bit of chaos, until you'll begin to feel like not only have you overcome the discord and discomfort mm-hmm. and grief and pain of it, but you'll be riding on a sort of cloud, current, frequency of non-physical energy that you've never had such personal access to before, I say.
Well, and I feel like because I'm doing that, I'm you know, it's 3 years and I'm really kind of feeling like, gosh, I like being alone more than anything. Because when you get out there, it's like I have to kind of have that discord because work and, you know, friends and situations. And then, but I'm how do you constantly, well, not constantly because nothing is constant, but what do you do when you could feel it? I could feel the disconnect. And it's like, okay, I want to be balanced. I want to be like in the middle. In between, like non-physical and physical.
Well, that's what we were saying, is you want to get ahead of it, because when something has happened, as our friend used the word trigger, and we think it was a good word, because things do trigger things. Mm-hmm. When in the moment something triggers something, and that's the moment that you then try to tend to it, you can't, because the trigger has already got the energy going, and now there's more momentum to overcome. That's what we mean when we say you got to get out ahead of it. So you get out ahead of it by saying, there's more gain than there is loss. You get out ahead of it by saying, I have access to someone who's non-physically focused with broader perspective, who's available to me in form of impulses and sensations and emotions all day, every day. You just practice the knowing of that and watch for the emotional, visceral evidence of that. And until you find that balance in a strong way, and you will, and you have, and you will more. And then what happens is, when something happens, one day, it was an early morning flight, and Esther was out in the driveway, and she had backed the car out of the garage, and she had more luggage than usual because she was moving to another place. So she had several bags, and she was and it was still dark, and it was not good weather, and she was lifting the bags into the car and feeling really sorry for herself when she remembered, I always was the one who lifted the bags into the car. I've been doing this for 20 years. I always was the one who packed the bags. She used to like to surprise Jerry. The car's all loaded. She would back it out. The car would be loaded. We're ready to go. It was her favorite thing to do. It was what she always did. So why is she now using this as a reason to beat up on herself, you see? So what you begin to notice is that you're just raw and ragged, and then other things that have nothing to do with it are affecting you in a stronger way. But you don't have to be raw and ragged, because you have more benefit than you do detriment if you just look for it, you see. And before you know it, you're flying high. Esther was editing a recording the other day, and she could so feel Jerry's influence. He was so excited. We don't want to freak you out, but the lights were blinking in the room, all kinds of evidence that he was excited about what was going on. And and Esther thought, you have never helped me this precisely ever, 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 ever. You've never been so here. You've never been so aware. You've never put thoughts in my mind. You've never distracted me from something like this before. It used to be we had to walk in the same room together in order for me to hear or get your feeling about it. Now you're everywhere I go. There's no downside to this, really, if you're looking for the upside of it. Right. But if you look for the downside, you'll find it. You can find the downside in everything. You can find the upside of everything. But if you are proficient in finding the downside, then you're a hostage to your own sloppy thinking. And if you are proficient in looking for the upside, then you are the beneficiary of all that alignment, you see. There is stuff going on out in this world that when you look at it, it's going to upset you. And there are people that believe that compassion is looking at it and being upset. And that's not what compassion is. That's what empathy is. That's what coming to your knees is. That's what disempowering yourself is. That's what depriving yourself of source energy is looking at tragedies and looking at it long enough that you feel terrible, that you use it as your excuse to deprive yourself of the alignment that's there otherwise, you see. But when you get over that, when you stop trying to be the martyr, when you stop trying to be the one that feels bad enough that other people aren't mad at you because you're happy when they think you should be sad, the source within you wants you to feel the joy and the alignment and the leverage of that empowering connection to source energy, you see. And when you do anything less than that, you are pinching yourself off from source and you don't feel good. And it's no one's fault but your own. And the world can't stand on its head in enough different ways to make you happy. There's always going to be some other person that's going to have the gall to die. Or some other person that's going to have the gall to be not healthy or to be upset about something. There's always going to be something, you see. And if you tune yourself to that frequency, you're never going to feel good ever, 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 because there's plenty of stuff that the world thinks you should be looking at. The television managers are looking around the world for horrible things with which to entertain you. And if nothing bad happened today, they'll dig something up from last year. They'll dig up a 10-year anniversary. They'll dig it up. They'll look for the bad stuff because they misunderstand compassion. They don't understand that true compassion is alignment with source and then attention to the subject, you see.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.